Most of my productive time is spent with the law enforcement community of the UK, thinking about how we can mainstream across law enforcement and wider society the implications and challenges of big data. My starting point to a group of intelligence leaders at this gathering in Crewe the other week was to say to them that if you've come into the room expecting a conversation about cybercrime, think again, because we have to have a much bigger discussion. I didn't mean that to them in an ill-mannered or a disrespectful way, but I just wanted to set the focus. Cybercrime is just one part of the gigantic challenge that is big data. There's a growing view among practitioners and scholars alike that big data can revolutionize policing, promote global health and well-being, drive economic growth, and apparently bring communities closer together. And certainly, big data promises untold economic benefits in terms of efficiency, effectiveness, and productivity. At the same time, however, our mismanagement of big data has already crashed the global economy. Big data is good for profitability, but the more reliant we have become on big data, the more people are losing jobs. Half of Europe's youth are currently unemployed, and our management of big data has a lot to do with that. It's the engine driving globalized digital commerce, with its emphasis on smarter technology for lower labor costs. In this context, big data has created new career avenues for internet-savvy youngsters, but many of these careers are, on closer inspection, poorly paid freelance portfolio roles that promote insecurity and grudges against the powers that be. The gap between rich and poor has widened. The richest are those who own the super-fast computing and virtual storage servers we use to run big data, as Jaron Lanier has argued very clearly in his most readable book, Who Owns the Future? I agree with Lanier. The big data business model is worrying. People give away their data for free to big data companies such as Google, which in turn make fortunes from companies who wish to use data to drive efficiency, reduce costs, and slim down workforces. Governments are like Google in miniature. They take this data through CCTV and myriad other means, and they transact in social media too. So today, and I am luxuriating in just giving introductory marks, I'm leaving the heavy lifting to the likes of Ian Stanier today for a change. Been on this circuit for a while now, but it's surely legitimate for us as a group to gather and consider the consequences of a model for modernity that some would argue is exploitative, creates a fantastically rich elite, places too much power in their hands, and forces the hard-working middle classes into greater hardship. Social challenges such as mass unemployment drive crime, and we are already seeing early predictions that big data will spark mass unemployment in Europe in less than 20 years. What could such instability cause in terms of political insecurity and attendant crime and societal well-being? How does this, to use corporate speak, shape the business agenda of policing and law enforcement is a question that's very interesting to us. But my concerns and those of IFG go beyond this kind of econocentric thinking that Lanier and others have championed. Away from economics and politics, things are no less dramatic in science. You've got people like Ronald Noble of Interpol talking quite a bit about this and publishing indeed in it, which is great. Big data is revolutionizing biology, allowing us for the first time to mutate cells such that we can actually create life. The possibilities for healthcare are wonderful, getting cancer cells to kill themselves, for example. But big data in the wrong hands could easily create germs, even forms of humanity, that may wipe out humanity as we know it. We are therefore, and I kid you not, talking about one of the most significant developments in the history of planet Earth. And it's arrived on our watch. In intelligence for law enforcement, a new approach is called for because the model has been turned on its head. The Centre for Applied Research and Security Innovation, or CASI, as we call it, and its partner, the UK Intelligence Futures Group, are seeking to develop such an approach and take it forward. Our way ahead, in a nutshell, combines innovation with ethics. We call it sustainable innovation. Briefly, our story started in Langley, Virginia. What's based in Langley, Virginia? CIA. That's where I was when the whole Snowden thing brought the intelligence sector into near meltdown. And the following became very apparent very, very quickly, both here and in the United States. First of all, the intelligence community in exploiting big data was operating in what Anno Bunnick has rightly called a policy vacuum. In other words, the technologies and search capacities and, if you will, understanding trajectories generated by big data had far exceeded that which law and government policy could keep up with. So effectively operating beyond the law. For the law enforcement community, this created a very, very significant corporate risk. So, for example, in simple terms, if you have the data but you don't use it, think about something like the Yorkshire Ripper for the digital age. You have it in your memory banks, but you're not actually exploiting the information. Great public, media, political blowback from that. Equally, searching too far. As the head of Europol recently asked, how far can we legitimately go? And then there is the understanding of senior law enforcement leaders at the level that Sharon, for example, recently worked at, around what is it that our analysts are doing 2 floors below us? Do we understand that? Can we actually manage it? So these are enormous questions for accountability, but they're enormous questions for effective and efficient law enforcement also. For us also, I suppose, in this policy vacuum, thinking back to some early security studies thinking around the binding idea, the idea which binds the citizens to the state and keeps them loyal to it, it seemed to us that ethics was the currency in the policy vacuum. And that this presaged and required a new conversation, a new form of conversation between the public and the law enforcement sector to map out acceptable ethics frameworks. How do you do it, of course, when you get into the detail is quite a challenge. But certainly it made sense in terms of a model of sustainable innovation. It had to be based upon ethics. Innovation for us is about, I suppose, what's often called disruptive thinking, more troublesome ideas, the spaces of dilemmas. And very often that will not come from within the sealed-in environments of an intelligence community or indeed an academic community. It will come from industry or it will come from the creative sector and the artistic sector. There's our job. Promoting ethics, promoting innovation, but doing it in a way, in a networked way, which perhaps hadn't been done before, which is translated into IFG, the Intelligence Futures Group. The Intelligence Futures Group being charged, I suppose, with preparing the UK law enforcement and intelligence community for the transformation that is required for big data. But how is it done? Well, one central mechanism is through networking, but networking that is, I suppose, done in a very structured way, whereby unfamiliar partners, including artists in the creative sector and the intelligence community, are coming together to treat uncomfortable problems and being unafraid of unconventional or unpredictable solutions. That is the model we are seeking to champion, and I'm pleased to say that we are getting quite a bit of traction thus far, although it's in our early days. CASI is a part of that at Liverpool Hope. In fact, we're the headquarters for IFG, but I suppose it is something that we do want you to know about because we do want to share it. Sharon is the chair of IFG. Sharon recently retired on a minor point of accuracy. She was Deputy Chief Constable of West Midlands Police. So operating at an ACPO level in a very senior role in the second largest police force in England, and also as chair of the National Intelligence Model Working Group, which again, just by way of introducing, one of its functions is to, if you will, redraw the strategic map for intelligence in the UK. So Sharon was working until very recently at a very high level in the intelligence apparatus and law enforcement apparatus of the state, which I think is an indicator of seriousness and of intent. Liverpool Hope is part of that to bring it, I suppose, an academic rigour. But we have also, through fact, Roger is here, through fact and also through artists working in the field, brought together thinkers as never before. And we seek to continue to do that, and we seek to roll out to the law enforcement community, I suppose, a new model of doing business in this space. We are educating people through CPD and executive masters that we're bringing on stream next Easter, but also through, I suppose, high-level consultancy and support for people like ACPO who are providing generously to us in direct support in terms of time and support from the ranks, if you will. So there is a lot happening, which I suppose I'm keen to get out there because it is predicated on a sense of conversation, on a sense of unfamiliar networks, and I suppose being unafraid of unpredictable outcomes around uncomfortable problems. So events such as today, if you will, an earnest and open coming together that as and of itself signals that unusual thing we're doing, a willingness to reach out, predicated not least on a digitalized phenomena that has reached inside our lives for good or ill, and if we're not careful will threaten agency, the freedom of the individual, as never before. Therefore, I suppose, putting on my introductory hat, with Roger, I'm delighted to get us underway, and if you will, I wish us well in the serious business ahead today. Thank you very much indeed.